Hello everybody. In Don't Starve Together, a decent handful of survivors have access to insight trees. These are Clay's way of giving a little bit of progression and a bit of oomph to our lovable cast of characters. But not all of them have one yet. So what better way to date a video than to make one about a subject that could be outdated in a few months. Today I'm going to be showing you my ideas for an insight tree for Warley. Why Warley? Well, he's a character I deeply enjoy but feel is one deserving of it most right now, next to like Walter and such. An insight tree is a way to lift Warley out of his pretty niche, strong but swappable role into something great. Hopefully at least. I'm no expert at game design, the closest I've gotten is making these items for the Binding of Isaac, but I'm still going to give it my best shot. Let me know how terrible my ideas may be or how fantastic they could be down in the comments below with your ideas. With all that out of the way though, let's begin. So my format for this insight tree is going to be something a little more traditional, akin to something like Willow's or Wilson's, in structure, not skills. So that means there's going to be 3 groups of skills, plus an additional one for alignment, that all 26 perks shall fall under. Like how Wilson has his torch, beard and alchemy, each column will focus on an aspect about Warley that you'll be able to improve, as well as the 4th one offering you a choice between a pair of alignment perks, like Willow's. So let's start with the middle grouping. Can you guess what this one will be about? That's right, cooking of course. Warley's entire gimmick is cooking and preparing powerful food. So of course a large part of this insight tree is going to be dedicated to improving and enhancing that side of him. In no particular order, you have aromas. This skill makes it so whenever Warley is cooking a meal in his portable crockpot, it'll emit a radius of savoury aromas that offer a slow regeneration of sanity. I'm going to avoid using numbers for this video since I want to keep it open and fuss more about the broader abilities than their numbers. So let's just say it's a slight bit of sanity regen in a medium radius. Now you can improve this skill with pungent aromas to improve the sanity gain and radius respectively, as well as making the aroma negate negative sanity drain whilst active. So the purpose of these skills is to lean into Warley's portable crockpot a bit more and reward players for wanting to use it actively. Cooking on the go to keep their sanity topped up in environments where they need it the most, like when fighting monsters, exploring the caves, or even bossing. It also helps complement Warley's role as a support character. Due to how the ability works too, you're rewarded with cooking longer to cook dishes, since that translates to more sanity gained and saved. Now the second grouping of crockpot skills starts with Serves Up. With this skill, all players are able to directly eat off Warley's crockpots and seasoning stations to quickly and easily grab a bite to eat. Useful when you don't have the time to take the item off the crockpot and fish it out of your inventory whilst in the middle of a fight or something. Much like aromas, this has prime usage in situations where Warley players can set up dishes ready for the survivors to eat directly, like during boss fights. But maybe you'd want a bit more oomph with this. Then try Fresh Meal. This makes it so eating a dish directly off a cooking station will grant the dish 20% more hunger. This is supposed to be my way of letting Warley have his passive back from Shipwreck, where he got increased hunger gain from crockpot dishes, but also by making it available to everyone in his team and requiring the dish to be freshly cooked. A fair trade-off, I'd say. And there will also be a second level of Fresh Meal that will also increase the health and sanity gained by 20% as well, but not health and sanity lost however. So if a meal removes those stats, those numbers will not be affected. So we've made his cooking a bit more active and given Warley a way to use his crockpots as a serving platter for better stats. How about we look at those seasonings too? Simply put, Spicy Guy will net him an extra seasoning per crack of his grinding mill, with the second level of the perk giving you twice as much instead. Just a simple perk to offer you a way to build up your seasoning reserves a bit faster, and make them more usable by making them more abundant. If you want buffs to actual seasoning, wait until later in the skill tree. We're about to wrap up his cooking skills for now, so let's go out with a bang, with one of the stupidest ideas I could think of, a salt shaker. This gives Warley a handheld pepper mill that you can load spices into to season enemies. Why? I don't know, each seasoning would have its own unique effect, with salt doing the least damage but making enemies lose aggro occasionally, because they got salt in their eyes. Garlic would make them take more damage, spicy seasoning would deal the most damage and deal damage over time because it's, hot, and honey flakes would grant lifesteal when anybody hits the target. All buffs would last for a short duration and have a little indicator of flakes coming off the target to indicate that they've been seasoned. You'll of course be able to improve this weapon of choice too, with Everlasting Spice increasing the time enemies stay seasoned, and Flavor Granules increasing the potency of the seasoning debuffs. As for seasonings, there will be some more seasonings you can make, which do have their own unique effects, but we'll go over those when we get to them. So yeah, this skill offers Wily even more ways to use his seasoning and support his team in weird and wonderful ways. You'll be getting extra seasonings from Spicy Guy, may as well put them to use. I see Wily as the best example of a support character, and now one that not only buffs his friends, but also weakens their enemies. This perk, along with Aromas, gives Wily a way to actively support his team, or himself, that isn't just buffing with food and seasoning beforehand. But how about we look at the next group of perks now? One's dedicated to making Wily himself stronger. A big complaint you hear a lot with Wily is how his food stuff is better used on anybody else but him, since characters like Wolfgang and Wigfrid have increased damage multipliers to make use of his damage buffs, making him a bit of a swap character. So how about we change that? I'm going to be taking notes from Winona's insight tree here, by fixing a swap character by making them the best at what they do, not others. So yeah, sure, you can use Winona's catapults as any other survivor, but they're nowhere near as effective, since Winona uses them way faster and with all of her perks. We're going to be taking that logic and applying it to Wily's food buffs. So this next category of perks, aptly named Gourmand, is that a Rainworld reference, are a simple selection of perks that offer buffs exclusively to Wily's own strength. The first ones being level 1 and 2 of Savor the Moment, which increases the duration of any food buff by, 50% and 100% respectively. Once again, let's avoid looking at the numbers. Combine these perks with level 1 of 2 of Taste Sensation, which amplify the effects of any food buff by a bit and a lot respectively, and you have a powerful situation on your hands. This makes it no longer the best case scenario to use Wily's food and seasoning on other, stronger survivors, since now Wily will become a buffed machine when taking these skills. These skills would apply to all buffs given from food and seasoning, even ones not exclusive to Wily, like mushy cakes. These selections of perks might make Wily a bit overtuned, but that's okay, he deserves it, man's got trauma. However, I do see a bit of a design oversight with these perks, and it's that Wily is less inclined to lean into his support role and feed his dishes to his friends if he is better buffing himself, making him a bit greedy in a way. Before, the issue was that he should not buff himself, but there could be an issue that he should never buff anybody else instead. But this is a co-op game at heart, and numbers always win. I hope Wily mains can still find it in themselves to also buff their allies when preparing to season up, especially with the additional seasoning perks. What's stronger than a fully buffed up Wily? A fully buffed up Wily and his moderately buffed up Wilson. It all adds together eventually. But what do you guys think about this? Do let me know down below. But we still got 2 more Gourmand perks to look at, so let's look at them. Simple one here, Speedy Eater. Wily now eats way faster. The slow, big meal eating animation can be killer sometimes, so accelerating eating by either speeding up the animations or making it so Wily only ever uses the quick one-handed animation no matter what he eats would also do the trick. And our last but kinda least perk for the Gourmand tree shall be Salted Pockets. Another basic one. This will just reduce the rate of spoilage of any crockpot dish in Wily's inventory by a decent amount. This will combine with the insulated pack and Wily's chef pouch, so a good way to keep your prepared dishes fresher for longer. Super helpful early game before you get bundling wraps or even that Bearger lunchbox later on. And that wraps up the Gourmand tree. A group of skills dedicated to hopefully making Wily himself more valuable rather than a simple swap character, without gutting his swap capabilities completely, keeping both sides happy, I hope. But now it's time for our last-ish group of perks. Now I'm a big fan of perks that offer improved effects as something not strictly character related, like Wigfrid's riding perks and Wilson's torch perks. I mean, I don't like these perks at all, but I like how they buff things not directly related to the character, just thematically. So, this next category is called Animal Husbandry. Please do not laugh, Wily is not marrying a beefalo. These perks focus on Wily's interaction with food sources from animals, something everybody has access to, but now Wily can improve. Let's dive in. First up, we have the most non-husbandry perk possible, Accomplish Butcher 1. Yes, I'm basing a trio of perks based around one Wily quote. The first level of this perk increases Wily's meat gain from any handheld murder, like rabbits, birds, and spiders, by 1. So slaughtering a rabbit gives you 2 morsels now, Birds will always give you 1 with a chance at another or a feather, and spiders will always drop 1 monster meat as well as their usual drops, which can also be another monster meat. Now this perk will only come into play if you manually kill things in your inventory after using a trap on them, or pick them up in other ways, not through direct combat. So that's why this perk also doubles the durability of traps, both bird and regular ones. A perfect complement to an improved way of getting meat. Helpful early game and might even make traps worth using later in the game as a food source too. I typically never use traps for food, only for making a prestidigitator or something, so my plan with these perks is to make them useful as, actual food sources. The next stage in the Accomplished Butcher line will give you 1 extra meat from animals. What's considered an animal? Pigs, tall birds, vault goats, beefalo, koalaphants. Basically anything that drops big meat, the perk will make them drop 1 extra. Just like the first level of this perk, a slight buff to meat sources, but for the bigger ones. This will also count if Wily doesn't get the last hit on an enemy, so he's able to reap the benefits from this perk without needing to last hit them. Only needing to hit the enemy within like 10 seconds or so. So Wily does actually need to fight the enemy to get the loot drop, so you can't just use automatic pig farms or something. And the final rank of Accomplished Butcher will give you 100% extra damage towards animals. Yep. Now, it would probably need to be phrased differently, like livestock or something. Basically, anything that you typically hunt for meat will now take double damage. Beefalo, pigs, tall birds, koalaphants, vault goats, these same examples I gave last time. This would obviously not include things like bosses or typically hostile animals except tall birds. Maybe even add an indicator to show that an animal is considered a livestock animal for the perk. I contemplated giving Wily the slaughtering tools from the gorge for this perk, which would let him instantly butcher any livestock animal for their meat. But I thought that would be a bit overpowered, so instead, let's give him a way to butcher these animals the old-fashioned way, but considerably faster. So these are his butchering perks. Finally, he can truly say that he is an accomplished butcher with pride. My reasoning for these perks was that we have plenty of characters that focus on farming and food gains from growing stuff, so how about we let Wily be the character that can obtain meat better than others too? Nah, but animal husbandry isn't about killing animals. In fact, it's typically the opposite. So let's look at the first of the other 3 perks now. First up, we got Goat Gatherer. This lets Wily feed grass to vault goats to get them to follow him for a short time. An incredibly basic perk, but seeing how valuable vault goats are to Wily, giving him an easy way to relocate their herds without killing them or pushing their herding spots around somehow, would make farming them way easier. This perk would also make vault goats no longer run away from Wily, allowing him to actually get close to them. Super useful to kill them, or for his next perk, because farming them now means more than just killing them, because Wily can now milk these goats with calcium efficient. Wily always mentions how he kept goats, and with how annoying it is to currently gather goat milk by electrocuting them and then killing them, I'd say let's give the man a safe and reliable way to get dairy products. No idea on the numbers though. You'd probably have to wait a couple of days before you can milk a goat again, but that's fine. If you still want your vault goat jellies however, you still gotta kill them for their horns. Though don't forget about Accomplished Butcher, those perks might help with that. And it's time for the final perk of animal husbandry, nothing related to goats. I Love You Egg will make it so caged birds will produce eggs slowly over time. Yeah, instead of birds only spawning eggs whenever fed meat, as long as Wily with this perk is online, birds will poop out a free egg for you every day or so. Just 1. And it's got diminishing returns for the more birds you have, so you can't have like 10 caged birds give you unlimited eggs every day. These perks offer methods to improve the farming of stuff that often goes underappreciated. So many characters have ways of improving crop growth, but none typically focus on the other sources of food in this game, like meat, eggs, and now milk. Not only do these perks fit niches unfulfilled, I feel like they also fit Wily's character in quotes. So we've looked at improving his cooking, improving himself, and improving his interactions with animals. The only thing we have to look at now is his interactions with God. And by that I mean his alignment perks. These will require the typical qualifications of defeating their respective endgame bosses, requiring a certain amount of regular perks taken, and locking you to one side only. Now each side offers you 2 unique perks each. But firstly, we'll look at the top of these perks, since they are kind of the same. Shadow Saute and Otherworldly Delight grant Wily access to aligned seasonings, Fuel Sight Flakes, and Moonglass Shavings respectively. These seasonings, when applied to food, will align the eater with their respective side, letting them deal more damage to opposing aligned enemies and taking less damage from them too. But that's not all. This is another Wolfgang and Wigfrid situation. On top of the alignment changes, the Fuel Sight Flicks grant your attacks a chance to summon a Shadow Tentacle, and Moonglass Shavings let you unleash bursts of lunar damage in an area occasionally when hitting an enemy. These seasonings do more than offer alignment, they offer unique attacks. Something alignment perks should have always offered, hint hint. I also made sure to have the recipes call for pre-Rift content ingredients, since I like it when alignment perks have a use before Rift content, like Winona and Wart has with their unique perks. Still gotta kill the respective bosses to unlock it for the first time, however. Aha, but remember the silly perk I came up with earlier? Assault Shaker? How do these seasonings work with that? Well, seasoned enemies still have the same on-hit effects like Shadow Tentacles or Lunar Blast, but on top of that, a seasoned enemy will have its alignment changed instead of yours. So you can force enemies to be Shadow aligned or Lunar aligned, synergizing with anything that benefits from that, like planar gear or other characters' alignment perks. Willow's Bernie perk, anybody? But now it's time for our last two skills of the video, post-Rift alignment perks. For the Shadow side, we have Horrific Cooking. This perk allows Wily to upgrade his portable crockpot with pure horror, creating the dreaded crockpot. Ooh, scary. Whilst cooking, the dreaded crockpot will lash out at nearby enemies with high damaging planar shadow strikes that deal more damage the higher the stats of the food you're cooking. An evil and perfect synergy with perks like Aromas. Lastly, we have our other evil crockpot perk, Mutated Cooking. Instead of using pure horror, you can use pure brilliance to upgrade your portable crockpot into a brilliant crockpot. This crockpot, I said that word way too many times now, can reverse the spoil of your food cooked inside of it, making it so meals cooked with even the sourest of ingredients will always be at maximum freshness when done no matter what. On top of this, the food will never spoil whilst it remains on top of the crockpot, just like old times. A perfect synergy with Serves Up. My goal with these aligned crockpot perks is to focus on different niches for each side. My inspiration for this were Winona's perks, the Shadow Catapults focusing on a large area damage and the Lunar ones focusing on pure utility with breaking stuff. Same applies to this, kinda. You can choose extra damage when cooking during a fight, or finding a way to make premium food that never spoils. So yeah, these were my ideas for Wily's Insight Tree. I hope you liked them, and I especially hope I achieved the goal of letting Wily ascend to new supportive leads without making him too overpowered or neutralising any of his downsides. I made extra care to not touch any of his food memory, I love that downside. From stronger buffs to goat herding to handheld salt shakers, above everything else I wish I was able to at least entertain you with my silly ideas. Thank you all for watching so much. It was super fun to work on this. Let me know your ideas down below and how you thought of mine. Also, let's all return to this video in a couple of months, hopefully, when Wily gets his actual Insight Tree to see how wrong I was. Let me know if you want me to do any other Insight Tree videos in the future too. But for now, take care everybody and have a lovely day. Bye bye.